All right. Thank you guys for joining us here on the Brooks Report Live. I am your host, Adam Brooks. I am joined with Congressman Babin. Congressman, thank you so much for being here today.
Adam, it's a great honor to be here, and I'll tell you something. Meeting your daughter, Chloe, who is now in the United States Army today, that's a great privilege. Really, I know you're proud of her.
Yes, sir.
As am I.
Well, thank you so much for saying that. And, I didn't want to, she just got in. And so I was like, come with me. I want you to meet someone. And, we'll grab a few pictures before you leave here. But, there's a lot happening in our world today, specifically the United States of America. We've got our economy, the inflation's off the charts, chain supply issues, all kinds of things happening. What do you think is going to happen in November as far as the House and the Senate? Do you think the Republicans are going to take both of those back?
I'm praying so, Adam. I really am. I think, up until a couple of weeks ago, in the mainstream media, you cannot trust. Because up until a couple of weeks ago, I would have said we're going to take both houses back. I still think we're going to take the House back, but I'm hearing rumblings that even Mitch McConnell, our minority leader up there, is saying that we might not take the Senate back, and I disagree with the very fact that he even said something like that. That's not something you say. It may work both ways. It might encourage people to get out and vote in these swing states, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Wisconsin, or it might discourage people. So I think we just need to continue to stay positive. We need to be optimistic. I think that people, as you said in your opening statement there, that inflation is really at its worst. It was at 9.1% just a couple of weeks ago. The last time we had that, I was in the United States Air Force.
Wow.
In 1979, and getting out, coming back from Germany, serving under Jimmy Carter. And, it took Ronald Reagan to dig us out of the hole that those Democrats put us in. Well, here we are, Adam, right back in the same situation with $4 and $5 a gallon gasoline, heating oil, energy prices are going through the ceiling, building materials, groceries. I was just in Silsbee a second ago going through Brookshire Brothers and their pharmacy up there, and the supply chain problems. You mentioned that as well. We have to get off of the same old deal that we're on now, being dependent upon adversaries like China. Incredibly, our President Biden, seems to be just bent upon and determined to get us off of fossil fuels, even at the cost of national security. Instead of releasing and unshackling Texas producers of fossil fuels, of Louisiana and Oklahoma and New Mexico and North Dakota and Pennsylvania, he's going hat in hand. The other hand's holding the gas can to our adversaries, to the Iranians, for goodness sakes, the Venezuelans, the communists down there, and to the Saudi Arabians, and asking them to start, pumping more oil. Even Putin, it's unbelievable that we're asking our enemies to produce our fossil fuels when we've got the capability to do it here. But he's so eaten up with the Green New Deal and climate change. That's all they can think about is diversity and climate change. People are not interested in that today. No, they're interested in secure borders, safe schools, safe neighborhoods, and bringing these prices down.
And I think in November you're gonna see that in the ballot box. I really do. You referred to the statements that McConnell made. That shocked me. And at first I was thinking, well, he's doing that as a tactic so people don't get comfortable and they'll get out to the polls and vote. But who knows? I want to hit on something else that's been in our news recently, and that's, a former president was raided by the FBI.
Yes, sir.
His estate there in Florida, Mar-a-Lago, was hit. So there were some things taken. What is your take on that? What do you feel about that?
Outrageous. That happened On that particular day, the FBI came and raided President Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago in South Florida. I had the very great privilege, and it was already scheduled, to go meet with President Trump the very next day.
Goodness.
At Bedminster, at his summer home in New Jersey. I went with 9 other of my colleagues. All of us were members of the Republican Study Committee. A group of about 130 or 40 conservative members of the Republican Conference in the United States House of Representatives. And quite frankly, if the Democrats thought they would intimidate President Donald Trump by doing this, they failed miserably. He was not only feisty and vowing to continue what he's doing, to stand up for Middle America, he calls them the forgotten people. I do too. The elites in this country are out of control, and that's the elites of both parties. And I think you've seen some of these elites on the Republican side, like Miss Cheney, get handed their, handed their
fill in the blank there.
Exactly. And the Republican Party, above all else, needs to remain united. We've got to pull together. And President Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, whether you care for his tweets or some of his statements, the man had the best policies of any president of my lifetime, including Ronald Reagan. It's incredible. Securing this border, standing up for America overseas. Let me tell you something. You wouldn't have seen Putin invading Ukraine while Donald Trump was in office. You would not see the shenanigans going on with the Iranians right now. And here we are. The Iranians have threatened and tried to assassinate our former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, a former advisor to President Trump.
That's right.
And then trying to get Salman Rushdie assassinated. And yet, instead of pushing back on the Iranian regime, the biggest exporter of terrorism in the world today, they're still trying to negotiate the Iranian nuclear deal, which will give them billions more dollars to invest in terrorism around the world and put them on the road to a nuclear device. The Israelis today, in fact, I just saw it on television a second ago. The Israelis, Prime Minister Naftali Bennett said that he's asking Biden, please do not sign an Iranian nuclear deal.
Right.
It will be bad for Israel. It will be bad for America. And yet this president continues to press forward with this insane policy of what he's trying to do with these terrorists.
You mentioned the border. Let's talk about that. In fact, I saw an article on your Facebook page earlier this week at some point talking about, 4.9 million illegal has crossed over into the United States, and then it's a 2-part question. So you have Governor Abbott, who is putting them on buses and taking them to New York, and they're not liking that a whole lot. But they're starting to see a little bit, because before they didn't have firsthand experience. It didn't affect them, so it didn't matter to them. Now they're getting a little taste of it.
They're getting a taste of what we have been experiencing now for nearly 2 years. It's ironic that you'd have the mayors of Washington, D.C. and the mayor of New York City just going after Governor Abbott as if he's heartless and saying, well, oh my goodness, we have 2,500 extra people in our homeless shelter now. And he just continues to make it worse for us. 2,500 people, that comes across our border in a few hours. We're getting 8,000 a day coming across our southern border. And, if you we got about 3.9 million people that have come across this border since President Biden took office and did away with some of the most effective border policies we have ever had that were developed under President Trump. They hate Trump so bad that they dispensed with all of it, terminated the programs, MPP, Remain in Mexico, Title 42, Building the Wall, etc. And quite frankly, it's not only a hatred of Donald Trump, They want these people in here. They have continued to double and triple down, offering free medical care, offering free educations, and putting all these millions of people on welfare programs
Sure.
that our own homeless veterans cannot even
That's
obtain.
right.
And they want them here for a purpose. And you know what that purpose is? To vote. That's exactly right. And when somebody denies, they say, oh, well, how do you know that, Congressman? How do you know that's the truth? Well, I'll tell you how I know. The very first bill that Nancy Pelosi offered on the floor of the House of Representatives at the beginning of this session last year was H.R. 1
That's right.
for the People Act. What a joke. This is a bill that will be a federal takeover of our election process. And it will put them in the driver's seat, the Democrats, in a perpetual majority forever. And I'll tell you, one provision of it was to allow foreign nationals to vote in our federal elections. If that's not the truth and somebody denies the fact that they're trying to get people to come in here and get on a path to citizenship, to be enfranchised, to be able to cast votes, then why would they have that in the very first bill they offer? It's it in a nutshell. There's no question in my mind that this is a strategy to take over this country and have a perpetual majority and put these people on a path to citizenship and have them vote and bankrupt our country at the same time. And the ramifications of our open border on every level, it is a disaster that is happening to us. Border security is national security, Adam.
Sure.
And we have had millions of these people come in. We've had dozens and dozens of terrorists on the terrorist watch list who have been caught trying to sneak over our border. We have had 23,000 convicted felons. These are people who have already committed terrible crimes, rape, murder, and have served time in U.S. prisons and then been deported. Now they're coming in and Biden's letting them come back. And we've got literally tons of materials to build and complete the wall on our southern border. And Biden has eliminated that.
Right.
And we continue to hear Democrats like Ms. Pelosi say, and Joe Biden and the rest of them, that walls are immoral. Well, let me tell you something. If walls are immoral, why in the Sam Hill is our president right now, Joe Biden, spending $500,000 of our tax money to put a wall around his beach house, his vacation home in Delaware?
That's right.
The hypocrisy of these people, it just really, it is so over the top. And that's exactly what this raid in Mar-a-Lago was. Going after President Trump for the first time in history, a former president has his home raided because of so-called classified materials there. Well, let me tell you something. The president has the right to declassify whatever he wants to.
That's right.
And speaking of double standards, the Secretary of State Hillary Clinton under the Obama administration, we saw where the administrator, the director of the FBI, James Comey at the time, said that there were 30,000 emails on her personal server, Hillary Clinton's.
She bleached.
And she bleached, bleach bitted, and also hammered them down and just pulverized them.
Right.
And he said that there was classified information on that. She wasn't the president of the United States. She can't declassify things like President Trump can. Right. And yet Comey had the nerve to sit up and stand in front of the American people and say, well, these classified materials and these personal servers, it did break the law, but it did not rise to the level of necessary for prosecution.
Sure.
You can't make this stuff up. They're so hypocritical.
Well, Congressman, thank you so much for joining me here today. It's always a pleasure to have you on the Brooks Report Live. I know our audience enjoys seeing you and hearing you talk and seeing where you stand on some of these issues. You can also go to Congressman Babin's Facebook page. You update that pretty regularly, I noticed. Yes, and so that's a good way to keep in contact with him. And I want to say also thank you to Mike Hawkins and the refinery here in Lumberton, Texas, for letting us do this interview in this beautiful building he has here.
And we're going to have an office here as well.
That's right.
That's right.
You are, and I am as well. And so I believe Senator Nichols is here with us
Yes,
too.
he is.
So thank you guys for joining us today. And if you can, I have my daughter here that's working the camera for me. She's going to go ahead and end this broadcast for us. And so thank you so much, Congressman Babin. Thank you to all our sponsors for the Brooks Report Live. And we'll catch you. Go ahead.
Adam, thank you so very much. It's refreshing to see media really cover the news and not black it out like we see so much of the mainstream media doing. And I also want to thank Chloe again for what she's doing in the United States Army. I appreciate your service. I served in the Army. I served in the Air Force. My son served in the Navy SEALs. My dad was an Army veteran from World War II. So I appreciate veterans and what they do to keep us all free. And I'm disgusted with what is happening under the Biden administration, with this political correctness, with this wokeism, instead of worrying, cancel culture, instead of worrying and training our troops to fight and defeat our enemies. They're more interested in wokeism, climate change, transgenderism, and these types of things. And we need to get back to basics. It's going to happen after go to the ballot box, folks, because this is where it will be changed.
We are on a compass, if you will, a point of no return if we don't make some things happen. And we need to have that counterbalance. We need that back.
Amen.
And so thank you, Congressman Babin. Thank you so much.